Hi and welcome to this chapter on working with Linux instances. So far we worked with the Windows instance. I just want to quickly show you that you can also spin up a Linux instance and connect to it accordingly. So again, we're just going to go through a quick demo. We're going to launch a Linux instance. We're going to log into it. We're going to install Nginx. That's the web server. That's a popular web server on Linux-based systems. And then we'll just review the Nginx startup page, just like we did with the Windows server. So let's now move on to the console. Let's create our Linux instance and get going. So here I am in my AWS console. What I'll do is I'll click on launch instance. So I want to create a new Linux-based instance. I'll choose Ubuntu. I'm more familiar with Ubuntu, but you can choose any Linux system or any Linux flavor that you want. Click on select. I'll again choose the general purpose one. Click on next to configure the instance details. I'll choose the same VPC. If you want, you can change the availability zone. It's not necessary, it has to be in the same AZ. And I'll click on next to add the storage. I can increase the storage if required. Click on next. I don't want to add a tag. So now since this is a Linux instance, the security group will actually allow the SSH protocol. So you'll be able to log in via SSH. We can create a new security group. We can choose a Linux and we can click on review and launch. And finally, let's click on launch. We can use the same key pair, that's new key, but I'll use the one which I already have, another one, that's a demo key pair. I'll say I acknowledge that I have access to it, and let's click on launch. So now if I go to view instances, I can see now that we have two instances. You can also see the AZ in which the instance is located in the AZ column. So now let's just wait for the instance, for the Linux instance to spin up and then come back. Now our Linux instance is up and running. Now, before I actually log into the Linux instance, I just want to show you about tagging. So tagging can actually add extra value to the artifacts that you have in AWS. Now, for example, we have two instances here, and we know that one is the Windows and one is the Linux one. But if you have a long number of instances, this kind of can get confusing as to what the instance is meant for. So what you can do is that you can add a tag. So now we know that the instance in US West 2C is our Windows instance, and we can just go over here. You can click on edit and we can give it a name. So you can put Windows and let's put this as Linux. If you want, you can actually, when you've actually clicked the instance, you can actually go onto the tag section and you can see the tag is already come over here, and you can add additional tags if you want. So tags are even more useful than this. Tags can also be used to control access permissions for your instances. It can also be used to see the costing. So if you want to see the costing for a certain pair of instances or a certain section, you can add tags to it and then you can see it in the Cost Explorer in AWS. But that's for a further time. For now, we know that we have a Linux and a Windows instance. So now we need to connect to our Linux instance. Now to connect to our Linux instance, let's click on connect. So it's not so easy. Now we have two options. One is to use your own SSH client. So you can use something known as PuTTY, or you can have the one that's given by the browser itself. Let me show you basically how to use it in a standalone SSH manner. You have the steps over here on how to log into your instance. So the first thing is to basically use actually PuTTYgen. You need to use PuTTYgen to basically create the key that will be used to log into or SSH into your Ubuntu instance. So let me close the screen. I have PuTTYgen available here. Now I will load on my desktop, I will basically load my key file. So if I go to all keys and my demo keypair.pem, and it successfully imported the foreign key. So let me click on OK. Now what I will do is I will save the private key, and I will save the private key to my desktop. I will click on save, close this. Now I'm in PuTTY. Now in PuTTY I need to go to the SSH section. I have to go to authentication, and in authentication I need to browse for the new private key which was created using PuTTYgen. Now let me go on to my session For the host name, you can go to your EC2 console, go to the description, go to the public DNS, copy it, go to PuTTY, and the user which is given to you is Ubuntu. Now, if you have any troubles or any hurdles of how to log into a Linux-based instance, you can always hop over to the AWS documentation. So I have the documentation open here, and here it actually gives you the entire documentation of how to connect to a Linux instance. Now, how do I know that the username to log into an Ubuntu server is Ubuntu itself? So that's clearly given in the documentation. Here it says that if you have a RHEL-based system, the username will be ec2/user or root. So the AWS documentation will give you the right way or the correct way to log into your Linux-based instance if you have an issue. Let's go back to PuTTY and let's click on open. Let's click on yes. So I've now logged into my Ubuntu instance. Let's do a package update and install Nginx. So I'm just downloading all the security patches for the server that's required. So that's done, just making sure it's up to date. And now I'm going to install the Nginx server. So now this is installing the web server in the background. So now I have the web server done. So now we need to basically access it from the outside world. So the same thing we've done with the Windows instance, we need to do for the Linux instance. We need to go on to the Linux security group. Click on edit, add a rule for port 80, that's HTTP traffic. Click on save. And now if you go to our console and hit enter, you can see that the Nginx is up and running. One thing notice with security groups, as soon as you create the setting, it is applied. You don't need to wait any time. The security group is applied automatically. So we've seen in this chapter how to basically create an Linux instance and install Nginx and see it via the web browser. So that marks the end of this chapter. Let's move on to the next.